Hey now.
Hey now.
Hi.
We are here with, hello. We're here with a fabulous guest.
Annalee Autumn Jones.
Yeah.
That's me. Thanks.
I'm really
Hi.
surprised you didn't say Annalee Jones. Richard really loves that she sounds, what did you
I
say?
just think it sounds badass.
Like a superhero.
But Autumn is
Jones.
cool too. I mean, you know,
Annalee Autumn Jones. It's just a beautiful name.
agosto,
And a beautiful
you.
person.
Thanks.
Yes.
autunno in Italian. Italiano, autunno.
Yeah. So Annalee's done a lot of stuff with her life. Pretty recently, when was the last time you published? You've done quite a few books now.
Yeah, I self-published a couple books. I think the last one was 2017 or 18 maybe. Or
Tell us about those a little bit.
Nice.
oh gosh. Yeah, I was like,
Well,
do
what
we
are their
talk about?
titles? How do we find them?
Oh, okay. They're on Amazon. Thank you. Good question.
Yeah.
Author. You are also an author, Faleena.
I don't know what you're talking about.
One is called Zoe and the Witch, and that's a YA witch book, and it's like 260 pages, so it's like a full-length book.
And explain what a
And-
YA is for the people who don't know.
Sorry, yes. Good
No,
point.
that's okay.
Young
I know what it
adult,
is, but
young
yeah.
adult Yeah.
Young adult. YA
Young
is young
adult.
adult.
fantasy.
And that's like the teens. That's the teens. It's right before new adult, which is like over 21 or over 18 or whatever.
right.
What made you get
Yeah.
into doing that genre?
Well, I love witches.
Yeah.
I've always
so
loved witches.
Yeah.
there's not just one book though. There's a series, right?
I have then some grown-up, not adult, grown-up books that are not YA.
Oh, right.
Well, they're a little racy, so they're kind of adult. But so it's the same world, but it's like a different group of people. And that one is called Soon Comes Night, and it's got vampires and witches.
Oh, see, okay, so it makes sense as the same world, different group of people, because I thought that they were in the same series.
I like
I actually
that.
sent them out to my readers in my Facebook
Oh.
group, which I told you about recently. And
Yeah.
I thought that they were all, I did not actually read them because my head is too freaking full right now with all this stuff I'm doing, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, but I love the whole thing is great. They had great reviews, great covers.
Thank you.
I love the concept. You've always loved witches, so you went into it and made a world about them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I always wanted to write a book, and I mean, Faleena, you know, it's it's one of those things no one can take away from you. It was such a big project. Like halfway through, I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? You know, but then you get through that and you're like, wow, I've did
Seriously.
it, you know?
You're like, oh God, what am
Oh,
I
boy.
doing here?
No one cares. What am I doing? Yeah.
Why am I editing this still? Oh,
Yeah.
I thought I already liked this draft. This one sucks now. What happened?
right.
Yeah, it's part
And
of
another
the
typo? How's that possible?
Another typo.
Another typo.
How what are you working on now?
I am turning Zoe and the Witch into a TV series pilot for like CW
Nice.
type thing, you know.
Congratulations.
So
wow.
like,
that's a
yeah,
big
thank
deal.
you. I feel like, you know, I wrote this book because I had this idea, but nobody in the industry is like, let me read your book to see what your story is. It's like, maybe we'll read like a 40-page, you know, script, but not like a 300-page book to find out what the story is. So one way to
Nice.
get it out there.
I love that. I love
Yes.
that. And I have I just realized I was talking over you as part of it. So tell me one more time what the books are just in case I need to edit it and move it up to the front part.
Sure. So there's a YA witch book called Zoe and the Witch, and that's for young adults. And then there's a grown-up version of the same world but different characters called Soon Comes Night, and those are all on Amazon.
And how many are there in Soon Comes Night?
There's really just one novel and a couple of short things that are sort of tangential. You know, I was like, I'll write so many books and I'll make a big series. And I was like, oh, it's so much work, and just got on other things, as you know, Faleena. So
That's
you
great
know,
though. I
there's more
love
stories.
when
It's just-
people get after their stuff and be creative. It's a whole nother world. I've realized that you know, just allowing yourself to be willing to try something different or to try something that means something to you, like what you just said. No one's going to read my book and the mistakes and this, that, and the other thing. But at the end of the day, it really is for you. And if you have passion in it and you're passionate about it, you put it out there, other people are going to, you know, get passionate about it, and then you get recognition. But I think, you know, the world where a lot of us come from is so fear-based in that I don't want to put myself out there or even try. But how do you know unless you try and apply yourself? And you are a prime example of that. I mean, I've known you for my God, 30 years. And back in the day, you were talking about, right, some of this stuff. And here we are now, and you're doing it. So bravo, bravo.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like, and Felina, you can chime in if you felt this, like, you know, any creative thing. I mean, you're an actor as well. Like, you're visible. It's about like coming out of hiding and like letting people see you, right? I always felt like writing my book, I was like, oh, it's so personal. Everyone will know it's me. But I'm like, no, people are way more self-involved. They don't think it's me in this whole book, right? They're not thinking about me, but I'm thinking about me.
Oh, you as the character, you mean? They're gonna think the character's you?
Well, yeah, or all of the I mean, what I found is that all the characters are me, right? Which helped me realize like how multifaceted I am, because I am all the characters. I'm the witchy aunt, I'm the young girl, it's me as a young girl, and everyone in between. So it's pretty interesting. I learned a lot about myself writing those books.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, you're pulling on the resources of yourself to put this out there. And I understand what you're saying, that, are they going to, but how wonderful. I mean, and that's what a good book is about, when it is personal and it pertains to what you've gone through in life, your trials and
Mhm.
tribulations, your traumas, and how you dealt with that. So, and it's also
Yeah.
about being accountable, and you're being
Mhm.
accountable to yourself, and therefore you become successful that way. I think it's brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And creating a fiction world. I like how you just said that. There's a thing now going about parts. No Bad Parts is an audiobook I started listening to. It's the concept of we are made of a lot of different parts. And
Mm.
sometimes when you have trauma and stuff, this is not about trauma because we're writing fiction books. But some of your parts they get bigger and they need to be tended to. Like some
Mm.
people will say, you need to talk to your inner child because your inner child is yelling at you right now because the inner child was wounded during childhood when this and this happened. But with fiction, it's kind of cool because, well, first let me just say, I love that people or you were wondering if people would think it was you. I have, because I'm a steamy romance author. So many times people have said, so have you really done all that stuff? And I'm like, no way. Well, how'd you come up with it? Imagination? Like,
Hello.
and I always tell people, I'm like, you don't think Stephen King really sees monsters, do you? Do you think he's really a murderer? Is he really holed up with a fan who is breaking his feet? No, these are imagination. Sex is the same thing. Steamy is the same thing.
Oh, that movie Misery, Maron.
Oh, Maron.
That's scary. Yeah, that's a scary thought, to be locked up with someone who doesn't want you to leave and then hobbles you. That scene was just brutal. Anyway, to get back to,
I'm gonna get the dog is.
Bye, Felina.
Yeah, bye, Faleena.
Bye, Felina.
So how do you let's talk about accountability for a minute. Like, how do you hold yourself accountable? Because I know, it's
what kind of the topic?
well,
Say the topic. Just on that a little bit.
you can drop the topic.
No,
Go
you
ahead.
got the topic. You were doing it.
I forgot what you wanted to say.
It's on the line. How do you do that many creative things and get them done? So accountability leads into that.
So accountability leads into that, in the sense that being accountable for yourself and for your own actions obviously will project you into your, not, I don't even want to say career, because in this day and age, I tend to think if you trust yourself and you have some self-worth, you're more apt or more able to explore different things, instead of, what I mean, not getting into a 9 to 5. Like myself, I'm self-employed. I've been self-employed all my life. I used to work 3 different jobs, 3 different things, but then I had to take a step back because of some injuries and stuff like that. And now I find myself in this genre, which I don't think I would have done unless I did the work on myself to be accountable and to build my self-worth and to trust that, I think we can do anything we put our minds to. We're the only ones that hold ourselves back.
So how do you do it then? That's what we're dropping the topic on you. Yes, because you do many creative things. So
I love that question. Sorry. No, go ahead. No, I'm trying not to talk.
I just wanted to finish.
Yeah,
I just want to say, so how do you do it? That's it.
Okay. I love that question. And it's changed over the years. Because so I would like, one thing I want to bring up is like doing shadow jobs, like the Artist Way says, when I want to be an actor, but I'm behind the camera. I want to be an actor, but I'm writing. I want to be an actor, but I'm editing. And this is all true for me. Like when I was a kid, I loved drama class, and then kind of high school happened, and like I became a woman and was like, what is happening with my, it was very confusing. Like, to go from sort of a whole, skinny kid to like be a woman. So I don't know. So I definitely like got introverted in high school, and started doing all of the other things, right? So it's funny, people know, oh, Annalee, you're a writer. You've wanted to write, and it's like, yeah, that's the art I would let myself do. So now I'm doing a lot of acting the last couple of years, and I'm very proud of that because it's like I stopped letting myself do that. So I'm thrilled I've gotten there, and I bring that up because that's acting's important to me, and so I make sure there's time in my day to do it. When I first started getting back into acting a couple of years ago, I would like do my whole day, do my work, do my errands, and then get to the scene, get to the audition. And it's like, that's not enough time. It's like, I have to spend enough time with the audition and then like get the other stuff done. So how do I do it all? I make sure the thing that I care about is on my list of things to do at the top, and I get to it. I don't let it go for the next day. But it's interesting that you bring up the word accountability, because I created an accountability group. So every Wednesday, I have 2 Zooms where people can join, and they commit to one thing they're going to do every week. And then the next week they check in about it. If they did it, great. If they didn't, then they've said it out loud to people, and they realize, yeah, I probably should do it. I didn't do it. Let me like get to that next week. So that makes you 96% more likely to complete something when you say it out loud to a group.
Well, yeah, interesting. I was just sharing today on if you don't have someone to hold you accountable, to reason things out with, to do an inventory with per se, you're not likely to, move forward with it or go through with it. But when you have someone who cares about you, a group, whatever, that then you go to and say, okay, what were you holding yourself accountable for this week? And accountability to me, for me, my main thing is discipline. If you're disciplined, you will be accountable. You can be motivated to do things. It's a whole different thing. But discipline is when you do things, whether you're motivated or not. And that holds you accountable. And like yourself, I make lists every single day, even if it's just, take out the garbage, mow the lawn, get a workout in, do this, do that. I make lists every day because I do feel, and I'm sure with your accountability group, it's kind of a mechanism. When you scratch things off your list, you're doing them, you're holding yourself accountable, but yet also you're being productive. So I think it's great. Just for instance, I was just telling someone the other day, do you make your bed every day? He's like, what are you talking about? I said, you don't make your bed every day? And he's like, no. I said, so, and he goes, yeah, my house is dirty. I don't vacuum. I said, so all day long, how does that make you feel while you're out in the world and at work? He goes, no, I'm anxious because I gotta go home and clean house, or I gotta do. I said, right. But if you do that, then your day lightens up. You're accountable for all your actions, and you feel good about yourself.
Yeah. And I love that you said that you put the thing you love first and do the other things. That was a God shot for me. And God shot is when something like a synchronicity. That was a synchronicity for me, because I've been doing that lately. I have also been focusing back on acting. And what I was doing is everything that I need to do first, and then doing that at the very end, because I'm so used to having the discipline to do all the other stuff that I wasn't making room for the thing I really love. And so then I started realizing, no, I have to do this first. So I'm glad you said it out loud, because I've been ruminating on, what do I do? What's wrong with this? What am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? And you just said it. So you just gave me a path. So that really helped. Thank you.
Another thing that came up while we're talking, and because of your group that you put together, is, I sponsor, mentor people, adults and teenagers, and a guy that I'm working with right now is having a difficult time with his finances and stuff. And I said, well, let me ask you a question. I said, do you pay yourself first? And again, he looked at me, he was like, what do you mean, do I pay myself first? He says, I get paid and I pay the bills, and isn't that paying yourself? I go, absolutely not. It's not making you important. When you put yourself first, like you're saying, do the important thing first, the thing you love. If you love yourself enough, pay yourself. He goes, well, I don't even know how to get started into that. I said, well, every paycheck, whether it's weekly, biweekly, or monthly, you take a percentage, 20% of that paycheck and put it in an account for you. I go, because this way down the road, 5 years from now, you're going to have a down payment for a house. I said, otherwise you keep paying stuff, paying. And then you think yourself, oh, well, when I get that windfall, I'll have a down payment.
And
It never happens.
no.
You got to put it into action. So, I mean, it's to say, I love that you have an accountability group. That's awesome. Awesome.
Mhm.
Yeah. And it helps a lot of people.
Yeah.
When did you start that? Can you explain it? Because there are going to be listeners. One of the things I love about podcasts is they're evergreen. They'll always be here. So a listener could be coming in at any point and be looking for some kind of thing to implement in their lives, and they could bring an accountability group into whatever town they live in, because people could be listening in Spain, in Turkey, in Iceland, in Michigan, and anywhere we don't know. So like, can you say how that functions a little bit so that somebody could learn how to do something like that for
Yeah.
themselves?
Yeah. It came out of, I created a course to help people like find subconscious beliefs and change them. And then after that, there's an accountability thing. So they went through the course, and now we're just doing the accountability. And I've been so busy doing the things that I was hoping to do through this accountability group that I haven't even launched it for other people yet. So it wasn't the focus, it wasn't the goal, but then I realized everyone loves this part of it. Everyone's like, checking in every week is so helpful. And, a lot of the people in the group are artists. So I think in our society, art's not so like valued. So I think it's good to have something where you're like, this group of people cares about whatever art you're making, make sure you do it,
Agreed.
Yeah. So we just get on a Zoom, and if I want to say something, I will. But other times I just say like, okay, let's go around the group and check in. I'll time people if there's a lot of people, so it doesn't go on too long, and give them like 3 minutes to share about, what they did, and then how they felt about it. And then once everyone finishes, I give everybody a minute timed silence to think about what they want to commit to for next week. And then they do. And I write it down so that I know what they said. Most people remember what they said, but the next week, if they don't say what they said they were going to do, I'll remind them and ask if they did that thing. So it's really simple, but super productive and helpful and supportive. I mean, the women in the group are like, you're changing my life. And I'm like, oh gosh, thank you. I didn't think, I don't think I'm doing that much. Right. But people love it. Their lives are changing. People are starting businesses. People are doing art who didn't do art, and people use it to like, I need to look for a job. Let me, send out a resume or whatever people are doing.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I mean, it's brilliant. I think everyone, it like with your group, I once a week I do an inventory with somebody, and we get together for about 2 hours, and we pretty much throw it on the table. What, like you're saying, if I want to move forward with something, if there's a fear around it, and or if I'm still repeating patterns that are blocking me from moving forward. And with a group like yours, and especially with a woman like you who genuinely cares about the people, because people tend to kind of nonchalantly gaslight or, things like that. But when you have somebody who really cares about you, they're going to hold you accountable, and they're going to point out, well, okay, you said you were going to do this. You kind of dropped the ball. What do we need to look at there? And what is the fear or the trigger around why you're not moving forward with this? Tell me so that I can help you to harness your power, your accountability, and move forward with it, but if people don't care, and a lot of people I've noticed,
some people don't care.
I don't mean
blanket generalizations about people are assholes.
Yeah, no, I don't mean to be general, but there are a lot of people out in the world, which I'm sure you know, that we tend to go to the people who are going to jump on our side and say, yeah, that person did you wrong. You should tell them off. No. Instead of saying, wait a minute, what is your part in this? What are you not willing to look at, and what are you not willing to address, so that you're not even at all affected by any person, place, or thing? Because at the end of the day, it's just about you and your accountability, like you said. And what am I going to do to take care of myself and move forward? If I want to be a success, I got to get after it. I can't be waiting for someone to come knock on my door and say, hey, do you want the winning lottery ticket? It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So
what?
Yeah, right.
It's
What?
not
I
going to
think
happen.
And then there are
I
people
s-
who want to win the lottery and don't even buy a ticket. So I mean,
no,
this is what I'm talking
magical,
about. You got to
magical
be in it
thinking.
to win it. Get off the bench. Get in the game.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know.
here's the thing. Oh, go ahead, Felina.
No, I was just going to say I bought a ticket and then I won like $10 and then I played until I had nothing. I should have just kept the $10. But go on.
Know
At
when
least
to
I didn't
quit.
keep playing after that. I just played with the money that I kind of won and never
Right.
kept. Go on.
Yeah, that
What were
happened
you
to
going
me
to say?
too. I was going to say, I think fear is a topic I love talking about because, it's a cliche to say everything you want is on the other side of fear, but it's so true. And I think for people who push through fears, they understand the depth of that simple statement. Because my experience with becoming visible on a very serious level, for me, acting is being so visible. It's like so visible because it's like my face, it's my body, it's my emotions, it's just everything. Like, could I be more visible? If I had no clothes on, maybe, but it feels very visible. So my experience in getting to where I could do that is I wrote, I cried, I did exercises, I changed beliefs with my little process, and really, it felt like fear was a door that I like pushed through and like cried my way through. But once it was behind me, I was like, what was I so scared of? And that's when you've changed, when you're like, that doesn't sound scary anymore. When meanwhile, it stopped me for 40 years. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
I highly recommend for people to do things that push them through fear. If something sounds scary, do it. I mean, I don't want to be a stand-up comic, but I was like, that sounds terrifying. What if I just went and did one set? Like, I would be so proud of myself, even if I bombed, because it sounds terrifying. But I think it's underestimated as adults. We get to just stay in our comfort zone and not push ourselves that much. So I highly recommend it. It's exhilarating. And then you really feel like, well, I could do anything. Oh my God, I did that thing that I was so afraid of.
Fear will cripple you, and along with fear, once there's fear there, then we get into our heads or in our body, our heart, we encompass that, and then all of a sudden we start putting shame on ourselves because we're fear-based about it, but then we also beat ourselves up for not doing it. And there comes full circle again, the fact that we are all programmed by our environment.
All
So
of us.
well, yes, I believe so. And if you don't harness or work on yourselves, work on your fear-based, attitude modes, and we all know, well, I shouldn't say we all, but the three of us here know, fear, false evidence appearing real. So if the audience can wrap their head around that fear is just false evidence appearing real. If somebody in your past made you feel fearful or made you feel that you're not enough, that you can't attempt to do other things, that how dare you, try to be an actor or a writer or a singer or anything, I think is bullshit. Because once you start to do it like yourself, look at how successful you are now because you walk through that door of fear. And once you do, the sky is the limit. Your life opens up and all of a sudden you'll try new things. You'll attempt to try. So you're not living in that fear anymore. You're living in curiosity,
I think
Possibility.
also it doesn't even have to be somebody who had done this to you. It can, in addition, it can be an instance. Or I think a lot of times people are really giving people kudos as children now. And then when they hit any kind of an obstacle as they get older, I'm hearing they get really scared because they're not used to ever the real challenges of life. And so then they go, oh, this is actually hard. I'm not just always good here. So I need to. So sometimes you could be trying something and the result that you wanted didn't happen. And so that creates the fear because it was either embarrassing because you thought you were better than you. Oh my gosh. I got back into acting, but before I went in, when I was in my 20s, I had a manager and this is really embarrassing. I went on this audition. I thought I did a great job. I'm at his office when they call for the feedback. They say, do you have someone like her, but better?
Ouch.
He looked at me like, because he was all excited because I had said I did a great job. And he looked at me and he went, and I was like, sunken. Since then, I've done
Mm.
acting classes. I don't suck anymore. I just got here to Los Angeles and I was like, well, I look okay, right? Like, let's do this. I can fucking do this, right? Excuse my language.
Same.
Yeah, yeah. My point is that I could have easily, and I have, like I still have that coming to my head. They're going to think I'm not good enough. Can I have somebody like her, but better? Can I have somebody like her, but better? And they didn't know I was listening. So it wasn't even that they tried to, it was my doing something, it backfired, or the auditions that you try and they don't go, or the job you attempt and you didn't get it, or the person you loved and they didn't love you back. I think one of the things that happens when we get older is because you've had so much life experience, it gets scary.
Negative life experience.
Well, you've had some pain. You've
right.
had pain and you don't want to have pain anymore. I watch older people walking and they look like they're afraid of falling rather than walking. And it's because they've fallen, and when they fell, maybe something broke and they're like, I can't do that. Like I may not heal again this old. So now and I think a lot of times in our psyches, we can be like that. So I love what you're saying, and what you're saying, do it anyway. You must do the thing you think you cannot do, is what Eleanor Roosevelt said. Face the fear and do it anyway, because everybody's got them. And just
I think a lot of us, what I'm noticing out in the world is that a lot of us have a hard time staying in the moment, like, really being in the moment, present. And what I mean by that is if you bring your fears from the past with you and you're carrying them around with you, whenever you're interacting with people in the world, those fears are there, and they're like pulling on you. Like it's like a little fear addict inside of you that says, no, you're not good enough. I'm going to keep you down. I'm going to keep making you feel this way. But if we can harness being in the moment, and then that's not happening to me. That happened maybe through someone else, or while I was a kid, or my parents, whoever programmed that into my head, then we take it on. And of course we run with it, because our psyche loves to go down the rabbit hole. It loves, the minute you start thinking something's wrong, it will manifest. You'll go down the rabbit hole. So how do you stay, present in the moment so that you can be the best version of yourself and succeed?
Great question. I love that. In this whole search of when I ended up making a course, I was, doing like a spiritual deep dive. And a couple of things I came across that are somewhat high level, I think, spiritual tools are what I call emotional mastery. I think there's other words for it, but the idea is that, the person who cuts you off in traffic, it doesn't affect me. It doesn't spin me into a bad mood. Even my husband's bad moods don't spin me into a bad mood. Do I have autonomy? Can I stay happy? I mean, I am happy. Can I stay happy? Can someone really ruin my day? Am I really going to let someone ruin hours of my day? No, I don't have time for that, for one thing. And the other thing that is so challenging is the mirror, the reflection. If there's something in your world that you don't like and you're like, oh, I wish that would change, often it's a reflection of what's in you. And I feel like that's such a tricky one. So those are sort of the higher level things I use to stay present, stay in reality, don't let other people's stuff bother me. I mean, I get bothered, but I used to get more bothered by things. And the point is that I want to stay feeling good. And, I believe in law of attraction stuff and just energy and vibrations and the connectivity. So having to work to get in a high vibration is why I chose to use these things, so that I don't get tanked down and then have to get back up and tanked down by things and back up. So that's one way I stay present.
Nice. Yeah. I always say, if you can master your thoughts, you can master your world.
Yeah.
If you allow the bad thoughts in, the thoughts from the past to make us feel less than, or not important, or unworthy, we could hold on to it. And all those are really thorns. They're just thorns, and they get pushed when someone says something that reminds us of one of those thorns from the past that we haven't really addressed. And by doing the work, like what you just said, I mean, if you can always kind of keep the focus on yourself, that's one part of it. Then also, when you're having a really difficult time, and, like the focus group that you have, to reason things out with other people, because when we're getting triggered, when those emotions come up of not worthy enough or whatever, we can't get out of it on our own most of the time, because we don't even realize we're doing it. And then there's the other side of that is most people, you don't know what you don't know. And if you don't even know that you're affected by your past or your job or whatever, that will cripple you as well. But then I just love the fact that you're putting yourself in a position to help other people. I mean, that's how the world goes around. And I think more of us need to have people to reason things out with that really genuinely care. There's nothing on it for us. It's for fun and for free. Do it because you care about other people, the society, and what, I mean, yeah, that's a whole nother topic we can get into, how, this whole generation is getting, we're just getting so bombarded with sensationalism, and we got to keep up with the Joneses. And I don't mean you, but you know what I'm saying. But literally, hey, we got to keep up with the Joneses. We got to keep up with Annalee.
Right.
But
oh my gosh,
yeah,
how did I not put that together with you guys?
Yes.
Yeah. That's
think
amazing.
It's helpful to keep in mind that our brains are wired to focus on negativity all the
Yes.
time. Like a negative experience and a positive experience, your brain will hold on to the negative experience. And it's that whole thing of like the watcher, the watcher who's like above this body, this brain, who is like bigger than this person. And you're like, okay, well, my brain is having ideas. My brain is firing synapses that are making me think things that make me feel things. Is that what I want to pay attention to right now? Because you really can be above your chemical brain. Helpful to remember.
Not to interrupt, but I so believe in what you just said. For me, it's sitting in the seat of awareness. When I start getting squirrely and I start freaking out, I step back and I sit in the seat of awareness and I look at myself and I say, wait a minute. You're getting triggered by this, that, or the other thing, person, place, or thing. Why are you getting triggered? Where's the thorn coming from? And is that really you? No, I want to be, like you said, that happy, joyous person. So if I can step back and look at it from the outside and say, wow, you're reacting to this because of your past trauma or something that affected you. And this is a knee-jerk reaction, and that's why it hurts. And for me, I get it right in the gut of my belly. I literally feel almost sick. And I'm like, ooh, it's there. But if I can step back and say, oh, that's you again. I see you're creeping in there. You're trying to sabotage me. And I know it might sound hokey to some of our listeners, but it's not. It's really self-care. And how do you take care of yourself in the throes of fear and shame? Because we can do it. We're proving it.
And I think things that are great these days on this topic of how do you get all these things that you want to do done is there's so many courses now. There's so many classes. Acting's great because there are so many acting classes. You can always be in a class, and that keeps you accountable. So that's helpful. But I think for someone who's doing something else, even writing or whatever, a business, whatever, it doesn't even have to be creative. It's like get in a group that makes you do it every week. It's like go to the gym, have a trainer. It's the same idea.
Right.
Just have someone, if there's something you want to do, you can do it and take the action to set your life up so that you can succeed at it. And we all know it's like with writing, you succeed at writing a book by typing one word at a time. And it's like acting is a long, slow process. Creating a business is it's just all a long, slow process. And every day or just once a week, if you take a step, you're ahead of most people who aren't doing anything once a week. Right.
Yeah. And I like how you said you didn't let other people's bad moods affect you, whether it's someone living with you literally or just somebody in the day because you don't have the hours to waste. How can you give our listeners, and by the way, if you're listening to this, we also have this on video and YouTube, and you can see our interview there. And we'd love to hear in the comments if anything sparks anything for you. If you have any tools you'd like to share with other listeners, with us, it might even be something we end up talking about in a later episode too, if you spark something. But Annalee, can you give the listeners a tool for how do you not let somebody else's bad mood in?
Yes, it takes practice. Try and remember how I do. The other part of it is, it's one thing to like get in a bad mood, call a friend and be like, oh, so-and-so, okay, thanks for listening. And I feel better. I was like, what if I could let someone's bad mood, like, bounce off me and not give it to someone else, right? Not pass it through to someone else.
Right.
So how do I do it? That is a great question.
Not allowing other people's actions to determine our reactions. I love it. Yeah.
I mean, there are things that are annoying, and yeah, I don't know. Gosh, I'd have to think about that and get back to you. But it takes
Okay.
practice. It's not easy, and it starts with like deciding, no, I'm not going to let that in. And why am I letting that in? If I am letting that in, what do I get from it? Like, because right, the brain and the chemicals and the addiction to the panic and the drama, and that's a whole thing. That's a whole other thing, right?
Yeah.
Addiction.
I know Richard has said with a kind of similar thing that if somebody's coming at him with a problem, he'll be like, well, that's a very interesting perspective. Let me think about that. And you go away. So it leads that situation. He's talked about that on the podcast. So it's kind of a way to deflect, because a lot of times they're coming at you in a hostile way when it's something of that nature where you finally go, "Oh, we're gonna shut that
Again,
down."
to come full circle, like we were talking about before, a lot of people, misery loves company. A lot of people will love to, if they're going through a bad time, they just want to come home, they want to dump on you, but then they want you to join in and be like, yeah, I'm justified in this, right? But no, you're kind of being a little self-righteous right now. And furthermore, when we hold ourselves accountable, right, we're taking the focus off of the event. It's not about the event really, because I think a lot
Keeping it away from you, though, is the topic. Like, how
well,
do you
yeah,
make
keep
it on them.
yeah, keeping it back on them. I mean, like,
They get to keep their own thing.
right, like what Faleena say. I love that saying. That's an interesting perspective. I'll give that some thought. So now what I'm doing is I'm acknowledging that someone has an issue. That's an interesting perspective. So they feel justified. Wow, okay, they're listening to me. And then when I say, I will give that some thought. Oh, they really heard me and they're going to think about it. But right now, I've got to go. So I don't even need to take on your stuff because, again, we love, and a lot of other people love to be caretakers. I mean, let's be honest.
It does make somebody feel heard, though, when you say that.
Well,
it does make them feel heard.
Say what you mean what you say, but don't say it in a mean way, right? I mean, perfect.
Yeah.
But it's true,
Yeah.
It is like you just said, it is a difficult process to allow things to bounce off you, especially when you're in an intimate relationship, because you want the other person to feel that they're heard and that you care about them. But at the end of the day, you could even sit there and be a sounding board. But like you said, that doesn't mean I need to take it on and bring it with me and then go say, oh man, my husband, my wife, my girlfriend, boyfriend just told me this, and now I'm you don't even, because the more we talk about it, we're just perpetuating their emotion, feelings, and the anger and pain that comes with it. But if we can just listen for a minute, okay, how do you feel about that? Is there anything I can do to help? No, I just wanted to. Okay, great. I wish you the best, and let's make dinner or whatever we need to do to move forward. But again, people want to and need to be heard.
I love that. Say that again.
What?
Is there anything I can do to help?
That's a
great way to do it.
I've been doing that for years. I know a lot of people that call me and want, especially because I mentor, sponsor, and they want to dump and, of course, share what's going on in their world. And that's why we do what we do, even with your focus group. But to say to someone, is there anything I can do to help? Because then I'm not giving you advice, and I don't even know if you want my advice. So, or not advice. I never give advice.
Mm-hmm.
But my point is, if I can just say to them, is there anything I can do to help? Or would you like some feedback?
Mm-hmm.
And allow them the dignity and the grace to say, no, I just feel like dumping.
Right.
And thanks for listening.
Yeah.
Or yes, do you have some modalities that you could share with me, tools
Right.
that might help me to move through this a little quicker or look at it in a different light?
Right. Or not. A lot of people don't want solutions, right?
That's what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, right. I think it's a lot of people just want to be heard. I think that's like when I first got into like recovery rooms, it's like I just understood that people were like, I can finally talk and people will actually listen, like there's so much advice giving out there in the world. It's like no one wants your advice. No one wants your advice,
Right.
And also it's like I try to keep in mind, the spiritual path I'm on is the one I want to be on. My husband doesn't have to be on it. He doesn't have to do the stuff I do. This is what I want to do with my life. So
Right.
I have some answers. I don't have the answers, but if he wants my answers, he can have them. But there's people that want my answers, that are in my group, right? So the people that want your stuff will find you.
Exactly.
Oh, now this is actually kind of a rare thing. So our first guest was your husband, and our second guest is you. And we asked
Oh,
him the question of how do you have a happy marriage? And we focused yours on creativity and such. But now that you've brought it up, what he can do his own thing. We have a rare opportunity to have tips from the other side. So what are
yes.
your tips on how to have a
Mm.
happy marriage, since
Oh boy.
you guys have, I mean, we understand there's always trials and tribulations in anything, especially if it's happy, because that means it's honest. So they're
Mm.
going to have some things, but what do you think?
Well, from what
It's
I've heard,
oh,
I'm
do
just
tell.
saying, you are fantastic.
Yeah.
And I'm not
Well,
just,
No, he's
blowing smoke. Number one, I've known you for a long time and
yeah,
I
you
adore
know I'm
you, and
fantastic. Yeah.
and you and I have always, gotten along, and we've reasoned a lot of things out through recovery and stuff like that. But I also happen to be very good friends with your husband, and he raves about you, and I'm impressed at the relationship you have and the way that you reason things out with one another and support one another. It's brilliant.
Thank you.
yeah.
Well, he's way more patient with me than probably I am with him, although I process a lot of that in my journal. He's just like, he's patiently loving. It's crazy. I don't know how he does it. I don't know how he's so patient with me. Um, I think the thing that went along with figuring out the mirror and um, the reflection and that sort of that kind of angle of spirituality also in that is like, if I want to point fingers, there's three fingers pointing back at me. That thing, I've been really trying to live in that the last couple years, because it's
Mm.
so easy to be like, so and so should, so and so should, so and so should, right? But what about me? What about me? What about me on all of those topics? So that's one way I keep a happy marriage, is that I focus on myself, and I really focus on myself. I really try not to uh I mean, I know he has a connection with this universe. I have a connection with the universe, and I trust that he has his, and they're working things out, whatever they're doing. I don't know. I know what I'm doing with my connection. And yeah, I trust that. Um I don't know. We're very we're very chill. I mean, we like hardly argue. It's weird. I don't know.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it's great. I don't know. It's very grown up. One good tool is to have your first marriage late in life. So we both got married. Like, I was in my 30s, he was in his 40s, and we had not been married before. So it was almost like a second marriage, but without having a first marriage. So you know how like sometimes a second marriage will
Love
work
that.
out better for people because they've like been through it, they've matured, they've changed. So getting married when you're older and you know who you are a little more seems helpful.
There's a thing out there, and it's bring your problems to your confidant or someone like your focus group who's going to hold you accountable, and
Therapist.
your therapist, maybe, right?
Right.
Someone
Yeah,
that
a
you
lot
could
of people
trust will
think
hold you accountable. Your therapist is a good one. Your priest, bring your problems to bring your solutions to the relationship, so that we're not, like you said, dumping on one another. You're responsible for you. I'm responsible for me. When
Mhm.
we come together, let's come together as authentic and 100% as we can, not looking for one another to fix each other or heal every single problem, because we're
Mhm.
not that. But
Yeah.
once again, in relationships, that tends to be a common theme that just innately happens in life, and we don't even realize we're doing it. And then you wonder why down the road we're having difficulties in our relationship. So I applaud you for the way both of you handle and take care of yourselves, one, and then come together and have a happy, successful relationship. That's
Yeah.
wonderful. I think our readers viewers need to hear stuff like that, because I find a lot in the world that there's a lot of confusion around that, and then the divorce rate is, my God, it's astronomical. But if we could just, again, full circle, be accountable, keep the focus on ourselves so we can be the best version of us, and bring that version to your relationship, you will have a much better time at success.
Mhm. Yeah. And my feeling is like, I'm happy and I want to share it with you. Like, I don't need him to make me happy. I can make
Yes.
myself happy, and I want to be happy with you. Um, And I think thinking about this now, the idea of like how important is it? Like, do I have to talk about whatever is on my mind right now? Yeah, I definitely not. I'm not a person who's like, okay, let's talk about this right now. Like this idea I just had. No, I will process. I will, the next day it's not even that important. The journaling, I journal a ton. So I know a lot of people don't journal as much as I do, but it does take a team, like on my side and Bryson's side, my husband's side, to have a good relationship, because it's like, I don't know, it's like champion fighters. You got to have your team like to help you, like so that you can get into the ring, the emotional ring.
Absolutely.
I love that.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Yes,
It's been an absolute pleasure. And yeah, just a joy seeing you as always. You guys are also so cool, which I love. Like you're great together, but I just think you're just freaking cool people.
Super cool.
Yeah, super creative, super positive. Just a couple of lights walking around. Nice.
Thank you.
Well, Bryce, it's funny. A couple of weeks ago, Bryson said that to me. He goes, "You know what I love about you, bro? I can bounce things off." He goes, "But you're one of them motherfuckers who got his lights on." I'm like, "Yeah, thank you very much, bro." So if we can walk around the world with our lights on, not off, I think we're a little bit more aware of other people and how to navigate things. So this was great. You were wonderful.
Yes, thank you.
And if
So
you heard some weird rumbling a little while ago, it's the dog made this really loud noise. It was not our stomachs.
She's agreeing with us.
Oh yeah, she's agreeing.
I didn't
That's
hear
what she's doing.
I didn't hear it.
Oh
no, I didn't hear it.
Because I'm like, she's doing weird stuff over here today.
Right on.
Now. Yeah, so great. So that was it. Follow us on all the things, everybody. We're gonna have we haven't put it together, so if you're hearing this right away, we're still doing a website where we have the bios of everybody. We're just gathering all of these things. But we might have it by the time you've heard this. So do give us a search, lnk.bio /the Hey Now podcast. We'll always bring you to all the links. It's like link bio, but it has no I in that link. Yeah, so great seeing you. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thanks, Annalee. Good to
see you.
Thanks,
Annalee.
What
Thanks
the
for having me.
what?
Have a wonderful day.
Hey now. Bye.
Hey now.
Hey now.